Welcome, everybody, and thank you for joining us for the webinar on addressing the U.S. Health Department advisory on help desk attacks.
As Mike Bond, I'm an identity access management specialist here at Tekjutsu. I'm a specialist and developer in solutions for identity access management and integrations. I've been doing that now since 2007, and outside of work, I do a lot of traveling and family time, spending with the dogs and things like that. Welcome everybody. Just a quick reminder that we are recording this webinar, so if there are any questions, we can certainly address those later. Also, this recording will be available afterwards, so we can have this webinar available outside of the presentation. The agenda for today, we're going to look at, we'll do an introduction of what we just did, then we'll look at some IT vulnerabilities in the healthcare industry, specifically with regards to some of the use cases that have already been happening, some real challenges and consequences of having inadequate security, specifically around verification, so challenges with what traditional verification methods bring, as well as kind of exploring secure color verification methods and the future, what that might hold and how we can handle that. And at the end of that, we're going to have Q&A, so we'll address some questions that you may have. And welcome everybody. So Tekjutsu, so who are we and what do we how do we get our name? So Tekjutsu is an abbreviation of two separate words: tech, which we're all familiar with, technology, technical, skill level, and jutsu, which is a technique, method, or skill. So where did that name came from? In addition to being an identity access management expert, our founder and CEO, Tracy Nyholt, was also happens to be a black belt. So during her studies in Japan, she learned about the meaning of the word jutsu and in Japanese, and as well as technical skill. The term Tekjutsu seemed to be a very fitting name for her company. So it both fits what we do and our personality. Tech ninjas are, as we say, ninjas move and act without being seen or noticed, and we aim to take that practice to identity management. So our goal is to provide you with identity management solutions that are seamless, transition, cause little disruption as possible to your workflow, and modern definition of ninja expands to include anyone that excels at a particular skill. So at Tekjutsu, we consider this our hiring process and all of our Tekjutsu ninjas have 10 plus years in the field of identity access management. And getting into the meat of the matter. So the US Department of Health had issued an advisory on IT help desk threat model. What does that mean? So looking at the article that came out recently with regards to warning of what hospitals have been under attack and other healthcare departments, as well as what can be done with that. So looking at strong social engineering tactics that are being used to impersonate both employers and employees, as well as the health department people as far as the customers and their health records. Providing identity verification details such as employee numbers, which can be pulled from paperwork that gets sent to houses or pulled from records as well, and allowing them to enroll their own MFA devices. So with that comes with the attack, they were allowed to enroll MFA devices against accounts using that personal identifying information that they provided, and kind of impersonating the employees that were calling in, impersonating the help desk to the help desk as well. So having the help desk be socially engineered by those attacks. As well, we look at voice identification, which is not safe because of things like AI generated voices. We'll talk a lot more about that as well. So in one of the use cases for United Health, this is one of the cases that happened recently as well. There was a $22 million ransom that was paid out to one of the malicious attackers, Black Cat. When we look at that and how that happened, and the verification methods and the impersonation to IT help desks and things like that, from this event and many others, bad actors are typically targeting third parties and subsidiaries and those help desks to be able to pivot inside and come in from those third parties. In this case here, it was hackers that broke into a subsidiary and then disrupted healthcare providers across the country for months. So as the CEO here has stated, they had to pay that decision for $20 million, which is very costly. We'll talk about costs and cost savings later on with regards to verification methods. So this breach here is also very similar to what was used at the MGM breach. We'll talk about as well. Healthcare help desk or IT help desk. How do we know callers are who they say they are? right? And what can we do to satisfy that requirement to verify help desk callers? That's really the challenge here is, how do we prevent social engineering attacks, or at least reduce them and reduce the costs that are involved with that. There's many different costs, which we'll talk about. And how do we know who those callers are? Well, the typical use cases for verification methods and legacy methods, which I'll talk about, aren't sufficient these days. Socially engineering those out of social media and things like that is very commonplace and very easy to do. So as we talked about, the MGM breach that happened here was a $100 million cost-effective breach resulting from help desk impersonation attack. So when we talk about this in the case of help desk impersonation, it was the actual employee's impersonation to call to the help desk that was being done here to be able to breach the MGM. And they use publicly available information, likely from things like social media and company websites, to be able to impersonate employees and coerce through social engineering the help desk to be able to do things like password resets and MFA enrollments and things like that. So really the meat of the matter is that we keep coming back to is how do we know who's calling is who they say they are, right? And those call verification methods that we typically see that being used throughout industries with healthcare and things like the MGM breach. And how can we make that better? How can we make that verification quick, easily effective, and better to be able to handle? So scatter spider attack was kind of part of what was being used. And when we look at various different things in the news here with regards to AI generated voices, bank frauds, and things like that, people have lost millions of dollars or thousands of dollars. The scatter spider attack and how that works and how the FBI has kind of put some articles out about this is they're considered experts in the following kind of methods, things that social engineering we've talked about, right? Using those social media and publicly available information to be able to coerce help desks to be able to give them the impression that the person on the other end of the call has enough information, socially gathered, to be able to be that person or impersonate that person through those attacks. And also phishing attacks as well, right? Through their email and gather that information or coerce IT help desks. A couple of other methods that they use for Scatter Spider too are things like MFA fatigue or push bombing. So that's where we've got push fatigue, where they push various MFA methods directly to the end user and get them to eventually just push yes or agree to the push verification through that fatigue. And there's ways that you can kind of work around that and alert on that as well, which is very important, right? To have those metrics to be able to know what's going on. And also through things like SIM swapping, so SIM swap attacks and whatnot with regards to Scatter Spider. There are other techniques and things that they use, but those are kind of the main expert fields that they've been using. So what are the challenges of traditional verification? As we talked about things that are being done right now with regards to traditional verification methods, inaccessible, it's memory or visually impaired customers. So things that are being asked, are way back in the past. I don't remember when I opened my account, or I don't remember when I signed up for healthcare services and things like that. Or visually impaired. So you've got either people, it doesn't matter of age, who can't really read information off of a mobile device, or it's harder to gather that information, right? It's frustrating. So when you're looking at asking questions, customers can't recall some of those complex questions. Like, when did you sign up for healthcare? What was the date of your anniversary date of getting this stuff enabled? So it's very complex and very frustrating to be able to ask all these questions. Not only that, but the number of questions that have been asked. I've asked you this one, now I've asked you 2 or 3 other questions. It can be frustrating. On the other end of the line, you're calling in and trying to get something done. It's insecure. So things like those questions that are being asked are easily guessable. Either if they're not guessable, they're available through things like social media, online profiles. In some cases, and it has happened, it's printed on customer bills and customer information that it's being sent to households. So even in that, we've got multi-household or internal household fraud that's happening. So it's very insecure, where people that live in the same household have access to those printed bills and that printed information, whether it be healthcare records that are being sent via paper and things like that, to be able to social engineer those questions and those answers. It's time consuming. So all of these questions and all of the time that's extends the call handle time. So you've got your agents on the phone with somebody spending 10, 15, 20 minutes going through the time-consuming process of asking these questions and getting them verified and finding out who they are and if it's the right person that called in or that you've called, right? It's significant time spent, and that translates directly into costs for those agents as well. So much more things like that. Voice prints, storage of personal information. So all of that data has got to be stored somewhere, which means it's easily accessible in things like a breach. So having that removed is definitely removing that huge liability of having those questions and answers stored somewhere. Some of the things that we talk about as well with regards to questions and that get sent either via paper or set when you initially set up your account is that pins, right? Pin codes, which are static, they're never rolling. Once they're set, they're really never randomized or changed, and they're very, very low entropy. So you've got like 4-digit pins and things like that, where once it's set, if it's printed off and sent in an email, whatever, that can be easily understand it and grab that pin and use it for verification. So some examples of some of these traditional verification questions are things like mother's maiden name, date of birth, first pet's name, things like that. The 20 questions that usually get asked, which are very easily gathered either by public information, through social media trolling, things like that, and pulling that information from publicly accessible records or even from inside household printed records that are sent. SMS and email is MFA, which is phishing, right? So we want to look at what we can do for anti-phishing attacks. AI generated voices now are it's very easy to get into the website that can generate an AI voice off of 30 seconds worth of audio. So you can sound like somebody, and there's examples in the past of somebody who was able to gain access to their own account through an AI generated voice, their own voice, but it was not them on the phone, it was an AI generated voice. Moving on. So what can we do about that? What's the solution? So at TechJitsu, we have a product of ours, which is a SaaS solution. It's a patent-pending software product called Caller Verify. And it uses to extend Okta's current factors of authentication to verify callers to the call center help desk. What does that mean? So that means that you can use your existing verification methods in the Okta platform, whether that be employee, workforce, or external customers, and use those factors, any of the factors that Okta supports, to be able to verify that the person calling into the help desk is who they say they are. We'll go into that in a little bit more detail, what that looks like. So as a new era of caller verification, moving away from those legacy methods and going to something more secure and definitely something that's easier and faster to market, right? So we look at better methods. So end users that are already using MFA, a lot of markets now are moving very quickly to multi-factor, and using those methods to log into a website is one thing, but also leveraging those for caller verification on help desks, right? So why not reuse those same factors, right? Make it easy. They're familiar, they're already being used, right? So leveraging those Okta MFA methods and factors that are registered, things like Okta Verify Push and TOTP, those are the best case scenarios where it's very easy to market. It's easy for somebody to understand yes or no on the device, right? Accessible, as we talked about before, where somebody who may have a visual impairment or things like that, or technologically impaired, it's easier to say yes or no on their device through those device biometrics, which then protect against local in-household MFA challenges as well, because those people that even live in the same household, that phone is behind individual user biometrics, right? Face ID, Touch ID, things like that. And then other TOTP methods, so it would be Google Auth or MFA Auth, and then other more higher security methods, right? So Okta supports YubiKey and biometrics and things like that. So being able to leverage all those methods that are being engaged and enrolled by your workforce or your customers when they call into the help desk, right? To be able to securely identify who they are on the other side of the phone. All right, so now we've got a quick little demo of what this might look like. So this is a positive use case demo. So this is a pre-recorded video that we'll use to kind of demonstrate the Caller Verify interface. In this video, we're going to show you what the integration looks like with an ITSM help desk like ServiceNow. However, this same experience could extend to another integration with another system, another website, or also with a standalone application SaaS. So we'll take a look at this, then we'll come back.
We'll show a positive use case where a legitimate caller is contacting the call center. In this video, we'll show you how you can integrate Caller Verify directly into any ITSM system. In addition to being embedded into an ITSM system, Caller Verify is also available as a standalone application. In this demo, we're using ServiceNow as an example. First, we'll show a positive use case where a legitimate caller contacts the help desk for a password reset.
Hi, I'm calling because I've been locked out of my bank account and I need some help resetting my password.
Sure, no problem. 1 second while I create a service ticket for you. Can you please provide me with your name?
Tracy Nyholt.
Great, I've found you in the system. Please hold on while I fill out the service ticket. I need to verify your identity before we can continue. Before we perform the password reset, we want to confirm the identity of the caller. Conveniently, we have a button located directly on the ticket to launch Caller Verify. Clicking on that button opens Caller Verify right in the ServiceNow interface and automatically looks up the caller based on the data in the ticket. From here, we're provided with a number of options. We can jump directly to the Okta Help Desk interface for this caller to provide other assistance such as password reset. But before we do any of that, we need to verify the caller. We can verify the caller using any method supported by Okta, including email, Okta Verify Push, Google Authenticator, and SMS OTP. We can also manage the authentication factors directly in the Caller Verify user interface. Tracy, to verify your identity, I'm going to send a quick push notification to your mobile device. When you get that notification, please click, "Yes, it's me."
Oh, wow. Yeah, I see a push notification. I'm clicking, "Yes, it's me." This is so simple.
Great. I see that you've accepted the notification and you are now verified in our system. Let's submit your ticket and get your password reset. Since we already opened the Okta Help Desk page, we can simply go back to that tab and send Tracy a password reset link. There you go, Tracy. I've sent a password reset link to your email. When you get that link, please click on it to finish your password reset.
Great, thanks. That was so easy.
As you can see, we're able to resolve the issue right away with increased security and reducing average handle call time, all while providing a great caller experience, thanks to Caller Verify. It's simple, it's secure, it's Caller Verify.
So that was the positive use case through an integration to ServiceNow. And as you saw, we could actually easily verify who the user was through the existing methods that Okta supported, all the Okta factors, right, that were available for ours. So even if there was a method where either they lost their phone, we could fall back to other methods, right? So that's a great experience. And we look at Caller Verify outcomes from this, right? We've got, accomplished by using better caller experience. We've got eliminating frustration of those annoying security questions. So it's a better experience both from the help desk agent side and also the caller as well, where they're getting to that verification quicker, right? So risk management as well. The call agent experience gets to spend less time verifying the calls and more time helping, right? So they're getting directly to the issue at hand, whether that be a password reset simple, or that might be something more involved, right? With the high risk money transfer or things like that, where they know who they're speaking to and they verified that caller. Call center experience, right? Reduced handle time. So as we talked about, those traditional methods take a long time to go through. With this verification method, you can get to verifying your customers in less than a minute, really, when you look at that. And those integrations extend beyond the help desk agent caller center to other integrations for things like ChatV, so for chatbots and for IVR solutions as well, where you can pre-validate or pre-verify somebody calling into an IVR and put them in a priority queue, right? So if they've validated or verification has been done from Caller Verify through that IVR experience. And it's more secure. So you're using NIST recommendations for factors like push verification and the caller's cell phone, which is behind those device metrics, right? And that provides a unified verification across all of that, right? From the help desk to the mobile to the websites, they're all using the same factors and they're familiar. So it reinforces that with the callers and the customers and the workforce that they're using those methods across all of their experience. So what does that mean, compliance wise? So you're looking at customers that are under all sorts of different compliance standards, whether that be the credit card PCI DSS compliance, voluntary SOC 2, GDPR in Europe, HIPAA for health, NIST guidelines, and OSFI. So what does that mean from that? So when we look at those, caller verification software like Caller Verify can also help you with requirements and complying with those requirements by verifying identity of callers before they gain access to payment systems like and pay card information, like PCI DSS compliance, as well as being able to say that you're using higher verification methods and recommended verification methods from NIST, like push verifications and YubiKey, so phishing resistant factors and things like that. Also, with regards to GDPR compliance, caller verification software can also provide that second factor authentication to verify those callers before granting access to personal data. So personal data stored either in companies and things like that to protect against GDPR access. And then in HIPAA regards, caller verification can actually help cover entities complying with that to the access control requirements for access to healthcare records and things like that, to verify the identity of those callers before granting that access, so that we know that you can say that they're being validated and verified prior to gaining access to those records. So what does that look like for savings? So when we talked about savings briefly, a little earlier on in this presentation, for cybersecurity insurance reasons and savings, utilizing strong caller verification methods at the help desk that also prove to your cybersecurity insurance provider that you're doing the due diligence of verifying callers using the higher assurance level factors like the auto-verify push or YubiKey and anti-phishing factors, which a lot of cybersecurity is now requiring to move away from the legacy security question verification methods. So your cost savings also, they're saving time on caller verification. So instead of taking 10, 15, 20 minutes to verify a caller with traditional methods, you're taking that down to the less than 2 minute, less than 1 minute method to be able to efficiently, quickly verify the caller securely and then reduce that friction, right? So you can save that time on caller verification. Your agents will be able to get, to helping them and be able to help more people in less time to be able to verify those callers quickly. And then what does that mean? Reputational damage. So reducing reputational damage by preventing breaches. So really the cost here is not a direct cost for cost savings, it's more an indirect savings in reputational damage. As we know, if you ever have to report on a breach, publicly traded companies, the SEC requirements are for that, to be able to save on that and not have to say that you've had a breach, reducing that potential reputational damage as well, right, by preventing those breaches. That reputational damage actually results directly in reducing that customer trust and therefore preventing the bottom line. So those are the cost savings there as well. So what that we talked about here was unified verification. So when we look at the unified verification methods, having similar and familiar verification experiences across online, mobile, and the call center interfaces, that consistently is good for your help desk, it's good for your brand, and it's easy for your customers to understand when they're using it across your entire platform. In the summary, we've looked at regards to increasing customer satisfaction, so being able to reduce those call center verification times and reduce that friction so customers can be assisted with what they want to get to right away. Better employee satisfaction, because you've got agents that are not spending a lot of time and frustration trying to actually get to the bottom of who's calling in and verify who they are with these legacy questions. It's secure, so you're using higher assertion level methods of MFA like push and YubiKey and anti-phishing methods. Reducing call times, things like getting that down from sub 2 minutes to verify and get to the root of who the caller is and get them to their assistance right away. And unified verification across the entire experience for the customers is better for everybody. And then quick ROI, getting something like this in place is very quick to implement. You're already using those factors regarding your customers and your workforce, and putting that in place is fairly quick, right? Return on investment is very quick in that sense. If you feel like something comes up after the call, feel free to reach out to AJ, our sales team, and book that demo or book your questions. We can certainly address those questions and get back to you.
Thank you for joining us for this webinar, and have an awesome afternoon.